Hey everyone, today I'm going to be sewing my own pair of underwear using a block I've created using LizSew's instructions from her YouTube channel. I'll provide all her information in the description, but the question I really want to answer is whether or not it's better to make a pair of underwear using my own custom block, or should I just buy a pattern? Let's find out. For this project, I am using the organic single stretch jersey from Meter. It's really nice. The fabric is thick enough where it's not see-through or anything. But for the muslin, I'm going to be recycling some jersey that I had used to make my cardigan muslin. This is a much lower quality fabric, but it was very inexpensive. The first step to making your own custom pair of underwear is to make a sloper or block based on your own measurements. I'm going to be following the directions put out by LizSew, and I will be providing the links to the videos I used below. In addition to her helpful videos, LizSew also provides a free Google Doc where you can enter in your own measurements, and that's what I used in order to create this sloper. Once I finished the block, I made a copy and outlined everything in blue highlighter. I made a copy to preserve the original for when I alter the second copy outlined in blue. Any new alterations I make to the second block, I do in pencil, and that's so it's easier for me to keep track of what I've changed. Next, I lined up all my pieces to make sure there was a smooth transition between them since I was dramatically altering the style lines. I also added a 1/4 inch seam allowance only to where the fabric pieces will be sewn together because I'm using fold over elastic. If I were using any other style of elastic, I would need to add appropriate seam allowances. So I wanted to go over my different versions or iterations of my pattern. So the first one I did is here, and I sort of have it mirrored with the second. So this is the second version, and this is the first version. And so the biggest change I needed to make, which I always have issues with commercial underwear, is that the gusset is never long enough. And even though I use like the LizSew's calculations for the gusset, I found I still needed to lengthen it an additional 2 inches. So I simply took that length from the front of the underwear and added it to the gusset. And it fit perfectly after I did that. But this is the front of the underwear pattern for the first version, and this is the front of the second version. So it's definitely like the most dramatic change, other than the gusset, of course. So the back, I just did a little like fitting alterations where this was way too narrow, so I widened it in the second version. And then once I had a general idea of the fit, I went ahead and made a third version. And this one, honestly, I just tweaked the front. So now this is version 2 and this is version 3. Like that. And so the gusset stayed the same. I made the panty front a little narrower, and I think I kept the back very much the same between version 2 and 3. And so I got to my end point pretty quickly, actually, and every time I made a muslin sample out of jersey fabric that I have, like an inexpensive one that I showed at the beginning of the video, and just tried it on without doing the elastic to see how that would fit. And that ended up working out really well for me. When sewing the pieces together, I used a triple straight stitch meant for stretch fabrics. It takes a while to sew, as you can see, but there's not much area to sew anyways, so I think it's well worth it to have a stretchy stitch that's still straight. I'd recommend sewing the gusset, front, and back pieces together using the burrito method. You basically sew the front and back pieces sandwiched between the gusset pieces. Once done sewing, you pull the front and back pieces to one side to create a gusset with all seams hidden. For the first pass of attaching the fold over elastic, I used a basting stitch. The second pass I used was a standard zigzag stitch as recommended by LizSew. Once done, I went back and removed the basting stitches just to leave the zigzag stitch in place. So I finished my underwear, they're right here, and I tried them on and they fit perfectly. The gusset's long enough, which is usually an issue with me. The panty lines aren't visible because it's not pulling anywhere, it's not too tight. Honestly, the fit is better than any other commercial pair of underwear I've had. And I posed the question at the beginning of the video whether or not I thought it would be worthwhile to make your own custom block, or if it would be better to buy a pattern. So I never bought an underwear pattern, and I don't think I will because the block wasn't that hard to make. I followed LizSew's instructions to the T, and I honestly didn't have any issues. She's very thorough and has many videos on attaching the elastic and inserting lace and making the block and adjusting the fit lines. And so I think if you just watch her videos and follow along, you shouldn't have too many problems making your own block. So at this point, I probably won't buy an underwear pattern unless there's something very specific I want that I just don't feel like drafting myself, but that might be a rare occasion. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please subscribe and ring the bell to be notified when my next video is released. Thanks.